Today's artist is Marc Chagall, an incredible, one of my favorite artists, actually. And so why don't we go ahead and just get started with Sarah Kane and Marc Chagall.
Great. Hi, everybody. This is a portrait of the man of the week, Marc Chagall. So he was born, actually, Moishe Chagall, and was born in 1887 in Belarus. And he grew up a Hasidic Jew in Belarus, and actually often lied about being Jewish to escape from the anti-Semitism sweeping the Russian Empire at the time. However, what's interesting is he established a career as an artist, and his Judaism became very central to his identity. He was kind of seen as being two main things, was an early modernist and one of the most renowned Jewish painters at the time. So that was something really key to his identity. So he moved from his small town in Belarus to St. Petersburg, the capital of Russian art and culture, and he studied drawing and painting before settling in Paris in 1910. And like some of the other artists I've highlighted in the past few weeks, he's associated with many different styles throughout his career. I think in general, this was kind of an era of experimentation and change, which was manifested through a lot of the art at the time. Chagall dabbled in cubism, symbolism, fauvism, expressionism, and modernism. When Matisse died in 1954, Picasso stated, "Chagall will be the only painter left who understands what color really is." So let's take a look at some of his art throughout his career. So after Chagall moved to Paris, his art was quickly influenced by the different avant-garde styles. This is called Paris Through the Window, done in 1913. And in this painting, we can definitely see the influence of Cubism, which was the most prominent style at the time in Paris. Mainly, we can see this from the overlapping blocks of color that represent the Parisian sky, but there's kind of an overall level of geometry that was used in the lattice, as well as the two-faced man and the city buildings. As well, there's kind of a playfulness with color, which was influenced by the Fauvists. If you remember last week talking about Matisse and the Fauvists, it was kind of this general disregard for the reality of the colors and using a lot of dissonant, very vibrant colors, as we can see in this. The modernity of this style of this painting kind of reflects the modernity of Paris overall. And it said that the two-faced man represents Chagall. He's looking east to his home in Belarus, while simultaneously looking west to his new home in Paris. So this painting is titled Bella with White Collar, done in 1917, but let's go back to 1914. So Chagall was living in Paris, but his fiance or lover, or whatever you want to call it, was still living in Belarus, and he missed her a great deal. So Chagall decided to take a job doing an exhibition in Berlin with the intent of visiting his hometown to marry his fiancée Bella and bring her back to Paris. However, shortly after they were married, World War I began and the Russian borders closed. So the Chagalls moved to Moscow, and he gained recognition as being an avant-garde artist of the time and also began teaching classes. So then in 1917, the October Revolution happened in Russia when Lenin and the socialists took over. And you can imagine in a time of great societal and cultural distress, kind of similar to what we're dealing with the pandemic, people often turn to love and hope for the future. So this painting is thought of as kind of a love letter of sorts. Chagall once said, quote, "Only love interests me, and I'm only in contact with things that revolve around love." So while he still uses vibrant colors, this painting is kind of a testament to his mastery of more traditional subject matter. When studying in St. Petersburg when he was younger, he was educated on the old masters and more traditional styles of painting, which is more apparent in this painting than the previous one. We can also see two small figures at Bella's feet. These represent Chagall and their daughter, Ida. So Chagall, later in his career, kind of in the mid to late 30s, he became known for painting religious and biblical motifs. This painting is titled White Crucifixion, done in 1938. And it was kind of a surprising subject matter for him, considering his Orthodox Jewish faith. But he uses this to show that Jesus on the cross is not just a Christian symbol, but rather he portrays Jesus as a Jewish martyr. This was painted in a time of rising anti-Semitism throughout Europe, and he tries to portray Jesus' suffering as similar to the suffering of Jews at the time. We can see Jesus in this painting is actually wearing a Jewish prayer shawl, and his crown of thorns is replaced with a headscarf. Also, the angels above him are dressed in traditional Jewish garments, and Jesus is surrounded by images of pogroms. We can see a village being destroyed, the Torah set on fire, and people fleeing by foot. So Chagall uses the crucifixion as a sign of common suffering and highlights similarities between the Nazis and Christ's tormentors, and he warns of the kind of moral implications of their actions. Chagall also did a similar version of this called Yellow Crucifixion, where he depicts Jesus on the cross again, surrounded by Jewish symbols, but the yellow motifs are there kind of to represent the Star of David. So Susan Tumarkin Goodman, who is a Chagall scholar, said this: Chagall's art can be understood as the response to a situation that has long marked the history of Russian Jews. Though they were cultural innovators who made important contributions to the broader society, Jews were considered outsiders in a frequently hostile society. Chagall ended up living until 97 years old, making him one of the longest living of the European masters of modern art at the time. And he never attached himself to one style, movement, or medium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to show everybody the background on my screen just real quick for a second. It's from Stravinsky's Firebird. Can people see that?
Yeah, you just put your finger over the camera.
Oh, I got to find the camera. There we go. Do you see that? So Chagall was very heavily involved in costume design as well as stage design, right, Sarah? And that's Stravinsky's Firebird. Just incredible diversity of the things that he applied his creativity to. And if you ever are in Paris, go visit the Paris Opera House, and he did the ceiling there. It's just absolutely magnificent piece of art.
Right. He also did many stained glass windows. So he really never, he dabbled in so many different mediums. Truly an amazing artist.
Do we have any questions of Sarah? Comments? All right, just shout out if you do. Okay.
Actually, I'll throw one out there. In the painting behind Sarah, I feel like I see a couple of flags. I can't identify what they might be. I see red flags, which might be, Bolshevik flags. And over on the right, I see, I don't know if it's a flag, it's a multicolored object. And I was just wondering if he was commenting on particular political movements that were behind the pogroms or something like that might appear symbolized by those flags.
Right. I think it definitely was kind of a political statement, almost a warning. I'm not sure exactly what the colors of the flags represent. I'm not sure what the Bolshevik flag exactly looked like at the time. But yeah, it was definitely, he was very intentional with his use of color. Absolutely.
All right, excellent. Any other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
Right.